Hey everyone, welcome to Jesus Girls. This is the Sha and Mon talk show, and today we're gonna be talking about overcoming your fears. Hi! Look at where we are. We're at Darling Harbour. So we're here tonight to find out what are people's biggest fears. Join us.
I guess it's spiders while I'm sleeping, biting me. And then I might not be able to wake up, or if it's poisonous, cannot go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I'm very afraid of that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so how do you overcome that fear?
I always check my bedroom before I go to sleep.
Oh, right, okay.
And
Every single night?
Every single night.
Oh.
And then if I'm in a new place, then I check even more, like Airbnb, because I might not be sure and leave the windows closed.
Oh, right.
That makes me feel a bit better, but never 100%.
I guess my number one fear would be not being professionally recognized.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I don't know. It's a bit too deep, but yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And how do you deal with this fear of yours?
I try to be best, kind of being best all the time. That's a bit exhausting sometimes, but I'm trying to be just up in my game all the time.
I feel worried about that.
Yeah, and what about death that scares you?
Think about it. I try to do some sports or keep myself good, and I try to tell my family about it, but I don't think about it too much.
So you just live life happily
Yes,
and
try to do.
oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
My number one fear is that maybe not being happy with myself or in my life.
Yeah, that's very real. Is that you?
My number one is that I'm losing my family.
Oh wow, okay. How do you deal with your fear?
I enjoy every moment.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What about yourself?
Yeah, always be happy and
Live for today. That's awesome.
I went in Australia yesterday.
He just arrived right now, so he's scared everything.
Oh, you're scared of everything.
Yeah.
Are you scared? So how do you
어떻게 최소화죠? 생각해보면 지금. He says he never thinks about that. Because I stay here all the time, and he was with me right now. He's with me right now, so it's one of the solution for him.
So he's like your mentor.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you deal with it?
I
Like fear.
I try to take my mind off it by just walking at night by myself is actually nice. Listening to music, just trying to get my mind off it. That's the best thing that I can do.
Yeah, that's good. So a couple of things happens to your body when you're actually fearful. First of all, your heart rate goes up, and then you get tunnel vision, or your peripheral vision gets reduced, and your stress levels, or what we call your cortisol levels, shoots up as well, as your body prepares itself for self-defense by channeling most of your energy to your limbs.
That's no good, Mon, and that explains because your body is so preoccupied with all these things that you're not able to focus on the other aspects, and that's why it switches off like the risk-taking functions, your exploratory functions of the brain, and you're not able to think rationally. So whenever you find that you're in a fearful place and your heart is not at rest, I would suggest not making a decision. Sometimes you feel pressured, and then you're just responding defensively, to like the fear of missing out or the fear of losing out on something. And that's we should be mindful and be aware that we are in that situation. So always make sure that you are at rest before you make any decision.
So good, Sha. Which brings us to the third point, which is being fearful can also cause you to look at everything else surrounding your fear as negative and fearful as well. So I'll explain. For example, you have a woman that receives a frightening diagnosis of a child in hospital. So the cause of her fear is actually the diagnosis, but everything surrounding that, so the people, the building, the smell, suddenly becomes...
Uniforms, when she sees nurses' uniforms or doctors' uniforms.
Yes. It becomes negative and fearful to her. So then whenever she enters a hospital, she just gets hit by symptoms of fear and anxiety. So I guess one thing to take note is try and find out what your and identify what your fear is, so you're able to address it and overcome it.
And have victory over that. That's right. Well said.
Yeah.
In summary, fear robs us of our peace and it makes us settle for less than God's best. And at the end of the day, fear actually weakens our trust in God. So what are the various ways that we can overcome fear and have victory in our lives? Well, maybe you can start first.
Yeah. So one of the ways I find is helpful is by practicing and preparing yourself mentally of the event that's going to occur. So for example, if you're worried about going to the dentist, you can think through. Yeah, I know, right? Like,
yeah, I don't like going to the dentist.
That drilling sound gets to me, causes fear and anxiety. So you can actually walk through that scenario in your head and mentally prepare yourself, because it's been proven to show that by doing that and going through that process, you actually take away or eliminate the uncertainty in the actual event, which decreases fear.
So at least you know what you can expect and it's not unexpected for you.
Yeah.
And I would say another way would be, because what you focus on, it magnifies, right? So if you keep focusing on the wrong things, it just adds a lot more heaviness and fear in your life. And what I feel is really important is about how you perceive yourself to fear. If you keep comparing yourself, in your eyes, it's like Joshua and Caleb, they let the whole troop, they wanted to lead the whole troop into the promised land, right? But they were not able to because the rest of the leaders saw themselves as grasshoppers in their eyes, and they compared themselves with giants. And that was something actually we discussed at Connect Lunch today. Yeah. So
who wants to be a grasshopper?
Yeah. Sorry, I think one is being cheesy, but anyway. So like if you keep seeing yourself as a grasshopper, the giants are way bigger than you, right? And you're gonna have a defeated mentality where you think you can't overcome. But if you compare your God to the giants, right? God is way bigger than
way bigger.
Exactly, and that gives you courage, it gives you strength, and you're magnifying your focus on God rather than on yourself. So I think that's really important. And also one thing I really believe is like perfect love casts out all fear.
Yes.
So when you know you are loved, when you meditate on being loved by God.
Yes. Remember how big your God is, and then your enemies will become tiny.
They will be like the grasshopper. Yeah, and everything like your fear will just dissipate, and the peace of the Holy Spirit will just wash over you, and fear will just dissipate. So
Sorry, I'm just being very silly today. Okay, so the other thing that I find really helps is trying to change your mode of being stressed out to being very relaxed, so whatever it is, an activity that you find that actually relaxes you and puts you in a more calm mode. So it can be praying, it can be listening to music, or even like taking up a hobby, even like a hobby that relaxes you. So shifting your focus from what makes you anxious to what actually calms you down. And it's been shown that if you do it repetitively, so every time when you feel anxious and you go and you pray or you meditate or you worship, it just has a really good effect because your mind is then not focused on the fear.
Well said.
Yeah.